Hello, this is Dan Mollahan, and what we are dealing with today is a total illusion and masking over of true history. See, from the very beginning, the angels of God were angels of light and power and spiritual. They were all spiritual. And in the heavenly courts, they had to kick out 5 main people, or archangels, one of them being the cherubim, Lucifer, Yekun, Gadriel, Kasade, Penemu, and Kesabel. Now, these chief archangels had went against God, and the 1/3 host of heaven fell with them. They were serpent-like. Um, they were beautiful. At one time, the serpents were beautiful. But then they became ugly and cursed. Well, Satan and Yekun, being on the earth, seeing how things could be easily manipulated, especially with all the animals God had already created. So therefore they started taking genes and manipulating them and making some of them gigantic forms of beasts and altered types of beasts, hybrids, messing with the serpent gene mostly. That's where we hear stories about the feathered serpents and such. Anyway, there was the Adam and Eve that were created, and they were the first of the spirit of Yahweh, where God had breathed into this man that he had created. Now it is, possible that man-like creatures were created before this, which I think is very possible, but they weren't man. They weren't actual Adam, and they weren't Eve, and they didn't have a spirit. Well, Eve was easily seduced by Gadriel, actually, who was one of the 5. And these 5 angels, after doing this, became even more cursed and became like a snake. Now, after this, even, they would not dare to go touch down on earth again, since there were so many boundaries and restrictions by Yahweh. So therefore, they would try to influence other angels instead to come down later. And this is when you get into the Sumerian times. Now, these were the 200, and these were Anunnaki, that they were called, such as Enki, Enlil, Ishkur, Nergal, and others. Now, Enki was known as the angel of knowledge and wisdom, and the god of the Apsu, and god of the earth. He also has been related to what Enoch tells us in the book of Enoch about Azazel, and he matches up exactly with him. Now, he is ascribed all sin by Yahweh, and Enoch is sent to intercede because of the angels pleading to him to talk to Yahweh, since he was pretty tight with Yahweh. Enoch was the most righteous man of the earth at the time, and actually for most time, because he's the only one who ascended to heaven without dying. But like I said, these Anunnaki, they did worse and started not just teaching wicked knowledge and dangerous things, but they were also manipulating genes themselves and making hybrids and tricking mankind. Then they had their servants, after being cursed and condemned to the earth for 70 generations for their sins. They were called the Gigi. These are the gray aliens that everybody thinks of. These are biotech. They're not actually life. They're not like us at all. They don't have spirits. They can be possessed by evil spirits, which the Nephilim control mostly. And the Nephilim are the children of the Anunnaki that had mixed with mankind and women. Now, the Nephilim, these are spirits that not only just continued teaching knowledge, but they were worshipped by the Babylonian and Canaanites and then Sumerians before that, and it developed into that. And these Igigi, which are demon-possessed and demon-controlled, were the ones actually carrying out the experiments and abducting women even at that time, and mixing and making hybrids. Now, we even see evidence of this when we have reptile-like beings again. So apparently they were inserting reptile DNA again into humankind to make serpent-like creatures, something maybe closer to the way they felt comfortable with, since they were serpents themselves originally. And they were, you got to remember, they were spiritually and not just physical, but anything that was going to appear to mankind would have to be physical, because we cannot see into their dimensions. We cannot see the spiritual. So this was the best representation that they could come up with. So that is why Yekun and others associated with him are associated to snakes, dragons, and serpents. That's why God calls him that. So he's being literal. He's not. It's not just an expression. Now, these angels, the great ones that did stick to God and were most holy and righteous, like Gabriel and Michael and Uriel and Raphael, they were to protect mankind and make sure that these bad angels didn't do too much more damage. When they seen things get out of hand, they did go to Yahweh, though. Said, hey, they're mixing mankind. What are you going to do, Yahweh? You are the Most High. Do you not see this? There's war. There's famine. People are killing each other. The giants are snatching up people and eating people. There's these now reptile-like beings and everything, and their technology has just gone way beyond. They've become like us angels in knowledge in some aspects. Now, these are mysteries that will be done away with in the end. And anyway, Yahweh said, well, because of this and all these evil concepts and Babylonian and wickedness and the giants doing wickedness and where they were eating mankind, they turned against mankind. Read the book of Enoch. Make sure it's the Ethiopic version or the Hebrew version. That's the best one that's not been manipulated with. Because mankind, when they go tampering around, it doesn't matter. God put the warning at the end of the Bible. He didn't say it wasn't going to be done. He also tells us not to steal and lie, but people do it every day, don't they? So when you see that warning at the end of the Bible, do not add or remove, doesn't mean it hasn't been done. Because the early church did a lot of that. Anyway, so during these Sumerian times, God said he's going to have to flood the earth and start all over again, which he did. And we went and we're going into the land of Cush and places around India, places northern and eastern Africa, the Mediterranean. Well, these places were still unraveled in ancient Sumerian type of worship, which became Canaanite and developed over time, and then became Akkadian and everything else, and Assyrian. These are the tribes that you hear about, because the Nephilim remnant had still leaked down even after the flood. And like when Moses' people had gone up into Canaan, when they seen the people up there, they came back in great fear. They said, we were like grasshoppers to these giants. And so God was going to have the Nephilim, the larger part of them anyway, killed off by the sword of Israel now, since the flood didn't get all of them. And now that didn't stop Satan from continuing his plan. Yekun and all of his angels would still have influence and still push these type of this worship, this monotheism in these fallen angels and these spirits that had gone against Yahweh. And all this, remember, all this alien stuff that you hear about, there are no aliens outside this earth. They are a part of this earth. They are earth-bound, just as the Lord says in the book of Enoch. So when you hear, they're not from outer space. Anytime you hear about them flying around, they're actually just slipping in and out of the dimensions, of the spiritual dimensions. Well, anyway, so we go into the Mayan times where they would try to do this all over again. Where Satan would fail in one area, he'd try again in another, especially with undeveloped tribes like the Mayans and stuff, people who are easily influenced. So that's how you had all these big, great civilizations. How did they build this? Well, they didn't build all of it. Satan helped them and used the Gigi to help them build it. That's why you see pictures in Mayans of on their walls of the Gigis, and you'll find artifacts of the Gigi. They gave credit to the Gigi in helping them build things, but at the same time, you could tell that they feared them and would want to warn others of them. So we see that you can't go by any type of real prophecy. We're not to go by the luminaries, and we're not supposed to. We don't need signs. And when you hear stuff on TV, the 7 signs, listen. If you're looking for signs, that means you're not right for God, right with God. That means you're not right with Christ. First of all, we're not supposed to, really does it according to the book, the Bible, Revelation. There's not one mention of giving us signs. He says you'll see signs and wonders, but he's not saying, hey, I'll give you this sign. No. If you're right with Christ, you don't need those signs. So anyway, we see how even in America, things became corrupt. And started off, everybody thought it was becoming a Christian nation, but apparently it was built on other grounds, other demonic, alien type grounds of Freemasonry, of developing vast knowledge that they had obtained, and becoming like gods themselves, mankind being enthralled by this would even try to do some of this stuff, like building the coral castle thing where they lift huge blocks. This one man did it all by himself. How did he do it? He did it with sound and magnets and stuff like that. And there's really deep technology. It's a lot simpler than what people think. But we really don't need none of that. We don't need ink and paper to confirm our faith. We need to just talk to God. So then we have the fear of today's time of Akhenaten possibly being revived and DNA clone. That stuff is going on today. And that Obama and Michelle aren't quite the people that we think they are. I'm just going to leave it set at that. Some people have accused him of being the Antichrist. I wouldn't doubt it. Also, look at this picture of Washington, D.C. That is a picture of a serpent, a Satan. So go back on there and you'll see that. That is what our country is built on. That is what the United States of America is built on. Then we got people like Zechariah Sitchin or the Freemasons who try to push crap like the Lost Book of Enki as truth when it's not. And if you actually read a lot of this stuff, you'll find Enki lying all the time. As he'll contradict himself, but this and that. I am God of all. But then, oh wait a second, but Enlo, your knowledge is far-reaching, is beyond mine. You have rulership. Saying that Enlo had powers over the heavens and the earth, while Enki only had powers over the earth. So that's he's sitting there trying to say one thing and then he's saying another. So it shows you that they're liars. And then even Enlo, who some people have thought might be the angel Michael, people started worshiping him against his will, of course, and he had to withdraw from mankind because of it. But we must give credit to Yahweh and Yahshua, because there's always a top to everything. Remember, Yahweh is the top. God is the top. And he sent his anointed one, the head of days. Who is it? It's himself. He sent him down as flesh. When he had seen Adam and Eve lose hope and stuff, and Adam, according to the book of Adam and Eve, if you read it, it's extra canonical, he committed suicide. And God said, well, because you've done this, likewise I will shed my blood and relieve all transgressions and this and that. Now stop it with your killing yourself and sacrificing. God never did approve of sacrificing things. People just did it, and people don't realize it. Now, there were times he tolerated it because of man God, but eventually he got fed up with it. He said, no more. He got rid of old Jewish law. So then we have America going into its false flags and all these lies and these fake wars that they're doing. And like I said, like some people believe in that Obama and it might be the Antichrist, and that George Bush the Bush administration was an evil administration bringing about false terror. Half these terror suspects you hear about, it's all made up people. We're actually the terrorists. Anyway, so we got Hollywood, who takes the reins and trying to keep people's minds off what's really going on and keep them into sex and drugs and music and blah blah blah. Just debauchery, becoming like old Babylonian times. And we can see that the world is becoming a wreck again. Great wars, rumors of wars, and that they're trying to form a one world order that the Bush administration had talked about a long time ago. George Bush Sr. saying that, and this is to bring about a new world order, which we will do. You hear about the rumors about Club Bilderberg, about these Satanists. These people worship Yekun. Even the Catholic Church, a lot of them are responsible for getting into that type of stuff and misleading mankind. So that we're going to go either way. People, do not fear these wars, these great things, and how these leaders will go astray. Remember that Christ is always in charge, and that he is the one that we need to turn to and put our love and peace into, and be good to others and be Christ-like. Give people mercy.